Welcome to another edition of Radio Influencers, a podcast series we're doing for Radio Update. I'm your host, Andy Meadows. Today, we're going to discuss the importance of hiring, identifying, and promoting self-sufficient employees within our radio groups. But first, a quick follow-up on last week's episode where we talked about AI and Google's new VO3. I gave a specific example of how radio can use AI video generators like VO3. Let's say we do a 3 to 4 minute morning show break talking about a news story where someone gets lost on a solo hike and stranded in the woods alone for 2 weeks. So we take the angle of which one of us on the show would last the longest alone in the woods, then ask the audience to weigh in so we can carry over for another break or two. So we've got 9 to 12 minutes of audio we can feed into AI to turn the best 30 to 60 second clips within there into reels, and we use an AI video generator to create video to go with that audio. So as an example, I typed this prompt, camera tracking a disheveled man lost in the woods for weeks, into Google's VO2, the version that's cheaper, and within 30 seconds, it cranked out this video. I think that's a pretty good video to pair with audio, and it took half a minute to produce. Quickly, let's go over the results from our recent Radio Update polls. Wednesday's Weekly Wire question relates to this example we just talked about, and I was pleasantly surprised by the results. When we asked the question, are your stations using any AI video generators like Google's VO3, 52.6% said yes, and 47.4% said no. I think it's a great sign that over half of the radio decision makers responding are already using AI video generators because not doing so gives our competitors a huge advantage. Now let's get into today's topic. If you have any questions after watching or listening, email them to me at andy@radiostationconsultant.com or editor@radioupdate.com, and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. The importance of self-sufficient employees in radio is a topic that I've been passionate about for a long time. I wrote about it during the heart of the pandemic because it was very obvious at that time how critical they were to our operations. But recently, something got me thinking about it again. One of the true success stories of the digital age in media is Barstool Sports, owned and founded by Dave Portnoy in 2003 to publish sports journalism and pop culture-related content that's significantly edgier than the content traditional media outlets put out. In a recent interview on Theo Vaughn's podcast, Caleb Presley, the host of Sunday Conversations, one of Barstool's former content creators who blew up on the platform and has now started his own company, talked about what it was like working with Dave Portnoy.
How Barstool was set up was Dave is very hands-off. So he doesn't tell you what you should be doing. When you start doing what you're doing, he doesn't talk to you. You really just go complete non-communication with him 100% of the time.
Clearly, there are a lot of industries and positions where that management style won't work, and it's a hard management style for certain personality types, for instance, type A's, to adhere to, but there is a method to the madness. Caleb goes on.
What that culture breeds, I think, is like a kind of an entrepreneurial spirit, I guess, the people who are successful there.
This sink or swim approach works for Barstool because they're trying to identify people who are self-sufficient and don't need their hands to be held. They'll either figure it out on their own and it'll work, or they won't and it will not work out. We desperately need more of these kinds of figure-it-out employees right now in radio as we transition to digital. When I see on-air personalities who have been on the air for a decade or longer and don't even know how to run a board or edit their own audio, or on-air talent who refuse to blog on the station website, won't post on social media, resist putting cameras in the studio, or think podcasting is beneath them, I know that they're not going to be with us for the next phase of radio. In the same conversation, Caleb asked Theo Vaughn about how much Theo personally does behind the scenes for his weekly podcast.
I mean, a lot of stuff you have to do yourself, I think, because you want it a certain way.
This is a common thread with digital creators because they all start that way out of necessity. You go broke very quickly if you start a YouTube show or podcast from scratch with a big staff. So they all teach themselves how to edit video, some of the basics of video lighting, which microphones to use, how to affordably soundproof a room, all of it. Comedian Matt Rife, who went from relative obscurity to global superstardom seemingly overnight by posting crowd work clips that went viral, has talked a lot about how he taught himself to video edit and still video edits his own clips because he's particular about what's posted. I believe if we apply a Portnoy-style approach to radio and pair it with some clear initial guidance on the objective and overall goals, we'll identify the self-starters, the Caleb Presleys, the Alex Coopers, who also started at Barstool, and the Theo Vaughns within our organizations. Then it's incumbent on us to promote these people and retain them by giving them financial incentives to stay and to continue to evolve and produce. Plus, any new hire right now in radio should fit this criteria, regardless of department, because this is also very true in sales. Your odds of making it in radio sales if you're not self-sufficient and a self-starter now are very low. Obviously, this ties into last week's discussion about AI as well, because AI is empowering solo creators everywhere to look and sound like they have a big staff around them. It's no doubt a scary and intimidating time to be alive, but it's also a really exciting time because our ability to create content is no longer limited by our budgets. It's only limited by our imaginations and our willingness to learn to utilize AI. The fact is, to make it in this digital age, you have to be a hustler and a do-it-yourselfer. Right now, that hustler and DIY attitude and approach helps individual talent immensely in a media environment where there are fewer high-paying job opportunities with each passing year, because it forces us to learn skills that raise our market value and, if necessary, allows us to create our own media companies or transition to any number of other industries that are also looking to create their own content. What do you think? How are you recruiting, identifying, training, and retaining self-starters within your organization? Email me at andy@radiostationconsultant.com or editor@radioupdate.com and let me know. As always, if you have some thoughts you'd like to share on this or any other hot radio topic, submit an article about it by emailing submissions@radioupdate.com. Thanks for listening, watching, and reading. We'll be back next week with a new episode of Radio Influencers. Radio Influencers is a Radio Update production. New episodes are released on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern.